$650,000. Don't move past that number. Sit with it, because it isn't just money. It's time. It's 30 years of someone's actual life. Waking up before she wanted to. Showing up when she didn't feel like it. Saying no to the easy thing over and over, year after year. Until one day she looked at a statement, and it finally felt like something solid. Something that couldn't be taken away. That was Lynette. Now, here's the part that investigators can't stop thinking about. Brian had nothing left. Not a little. Not close. Nothing. And in every case where a spouse disappears, in every investigation like this one, there is one question that experienced investigators ask before almost anything else. Who was the beneficiary? Because people lie, timelines shift, accounts change. But a beneficiary designation on a retirement account, a name on a form filed years ago, that doesn't change unless someone makes a deliberate decision to change it. And the investigation has the legal authority to read that form. This is the silenced case. CTA, subscribe. Before we get to the money, before we get to the gap and what it means and what investigators are now examining very carefully, you need to understand where this story actually started. Because it didn't start on a boat in the Bahamas on the night of April 4th. It started at a phone company in Michigan, decades earlier. Lynette Hooker worked at AT&T for years, long enough to build something most people spend entire careers chasing and never reach. A real retirement account, the kind with a number that finally makes all those years of showing up feel like they counted for something. That requires a specific kind of discipline. Not dramatic, not interesting, just quiet, consistent, unglamorous effort. Month after month, year after year, until the number becomes real. Until it becomes safety. Lynette did that. And here is something that tells you exactly who she was. When she disappeared, when word spread that she was gone, her former colleagues at AT&T gathered spontaneously. 3 days after she vanished from a dinghy in the Bahamas, her co-workers came together. Not because HR organized it, not because someone sent a mandatory email, because people actually cared about her. Because the kind of person who shows up consistently for decades, who is genuinely, warmly liked, leaves a specific kind of absence when she's gone. That was Lynette Hooker. Think about what that gathering actually means. Not a memorial organized by a manager, not a moment of silence scheduled into the workday. People voluntarily stopped what they were doing and came together because Lynette was the kind of person whose absence is felt immediately, whose chair being empty changes the temperature of a room. You don't manufacture that kind of reaction. It's the result of decades of showing up as a real person, not performing, not managing impressions, just being someone that people actually want around. That was who Lynette was. That was who they lost. Now here is who Brian was at the same company. He was the union steward, a real role, an important one, supposed to stand between workers and management and make sure people are treated fairly. But what multiple sources told Ashley Banfield, reported April 27, 2026, didn't match that job description. What came back was a picture of someone whose primary focus wasn't protecting the workers he represented. It was opposing management, making things difficult, even when that opposition hurt the very people he was supposed to be looking out for. Manipulative was the word, from multiple sources. And then there is this one small detail, the kind that means nothing, or everything, depending on how you hear it. In a room full of co-workers, Brian referred to Lynette as the kid. Not her name, not my wife. The kid. She was 3 years younger than him. Maybe it was affectionate. Ashley Banfield reported it. It's in the public record. You can decide what it means. Now. The money. Darlene Hamlet is Lynette's mother. She is 76 years old. She lives in Florida. She has been waiting for a phone call that has not come. Every day that passes is another day she carries the weight of not knowing what happened to her daughter. Darlene confirmed publicly to Ashley Banfield on the Drop Dead Serious podcast that Lynette's 401k contained more than $650,000. Primary source: the mother, a specific number, a public interview, as solid as it gets outside of a financial document. Darlene didn't estimate, didn't say somewhere around. She said more than $650,000. The kind of number a mother remembers because her daughter spent 30 years earning it, and they both knew exactly what it represented. Now here is the other side of that picture. Brian had a retirement account too. Same company, same years. He should have had something meaningful saved. Two people, same employer, both putting in the time. That is how it should have looked. But according to someone close to Lynette at AT&T, someone she trusted enough to call when things got bad, Brian had already gone through his. All of it. Gone. And that source didn't say it casually. They said it because Lynette told them directly. In tears. During one of the times she left him, she sat down with this person and said Brian had blown through his 401k. You don't say that to someone unless it's suffocating you, unless the gap between what you saved and what he has left sits in the back of your mind in the quiet moments, unless keeping it inside has become impossible. One source. I want to be clear about that. One source who was there when Lynette said it while she was crying. That is not the same as confirmed public record. It is one person's account of a private conversation. But here is what that actually means in practice. It means someone who sat with Lynette. Someone she trusted enough to call when things fell apart. Someone who watched her cry and heard her say the specific words. He blew through his 401k. Not a rumor. Not second-hand. Lynette, in tears, in a private moment, saying the thing she needed to say out loud. One source is not a confirmed fact, but one source who held Lynette while she said it is not nothing. Now here is where it gets more complicated. A 401k belongs to the person whose name is on it. Lynette's account was hers. She built it, protected it, held onto it through years of a complicated marriage, through separations and reconciliations, through the decision to sell everything and move on to a boat. The house changed. The career changed. The geography changed. The account stayed. But 401k accounts have something called a beneficiary designation, a named person who inherits the account when the account holder dies. In most marriages, spouses name each other. It's the default. Most people do it once, early on, without much thought, and never revisit it. The form sits in a database, unchanged, for years, sometimes for decades. The beneficiary designation on Lynette Hooker's retirement account is not public information. What is confirmed? The account exists. It contains more than $650,000. And if Lynette is confirmed dead, that money goes somewhere, to someone, based on a form filled out sometime in the past. Here is what that means practically. Most people fill it out once, at 25 or 30, when they first set up the account, and never look at it again. Life changes around the form. Marriages, separations, reconciliations. But the form stays exactly as it was, the same name. Unless someone made a deliberate decision to change it. Did Lynette think about changing it when she left Brian in 2024? When she told her friend it was real bad and she wasn't going back? When she sat with someone she trusted and cried about the money he had spent? When she told her daughter in January 2026 that Brian had threatened to throw her off the boat? Did she think, in any of those moments, to pull up that old form and put a different name on it? We don't know. What we know is that the investigation has the legal authority to access that form. And whatever name is on it is now part of a federal criminal investigation. The investigation has seen it. Whatever it says, they know. The gap is confirmed. $650,000 in her account. Nothing in his. 4 years on a boat. No property. No fixed income. No retirement savings of his own. 2 people on the soulmate. One with a future she built carefully over 30 years. One with nothing left. Now, the broader record. Because the financial gap doesn't stand alone. It sits inside 30 days of documented evidence. And without that record, the money is interesting but incomplete. With it, when you put the financial picture inside the larger documented picture, it becomes very difficult to look away from. This is what Ashley Banfield means when she says she follows the money. Not as the conclusion, as a piece of the puzzle that sits alongside everything else. And when you put that piece next to the other pieces, the flare, the AIS, the word bounced, the drone, the voicemail, the GPS history, a picture emerges, not a conclusion. A picture. Lynette Hooker was 55, from Onstead, Michigan. Her mother told the Associated Press she had been around lakes, boats, sailing, and swimming her entire life. Her daughter Carly told CBS News she was very fit, very strong, a good swimmer. More than a decade of sailing experience on the open water. This was not a woman who accidentally fell off a small boat. Her last Instagram post went up April 4, 2026. Boats anchored in still, clear Bahamian water. The caption, "Not going anywhere for a while." By that evening, she was gone. Brian Hooker told investigators what happened. They left the Abaco Inn by dinghy, a small 8-foot boat, heading back to the Soulmate near Elbow Cay. Waters rough, winds high. Lynette fell overboard. The engine's safety lanyard cut the motor. Brian tried to paddle. He last saw her swimming toward shore. The current took her. He paddled for hours. Found a boatyard, called the police. That is his story. That is the version he told the Royal Bahamas Police Force. The version he told NBC. The version he told CBS. The version he told ABC. The version he has repeated consistently since the morning of April 5th when he called to report his wife missing. The story has never changed in its broad strokes, but the details around it have raised questions that 30 days of investigation have not answered. Now, here is what the record shows. The surveillance camera at the Abaco Inn recorded them leaving at 6:38 p.m. Brian told police they left at 7:30 p.m., 52 minutes. Unaccounted for, rescue volunteer Jim Todd, years on these specific waters, said the crossing takes approximately 15 minutes, meaning whatever happened out there happened around 6:53 p.m. Not in the dark, with light still in the sky, close enough to shore that Carly stood there weeks later and said her mother could have swum 2 feet to the bank. Then there is the flare. Multiple witnesses, same group, nearby deck, saw a flare at approximately 8 p.m., rising from the direction of the Soulmate. The boat Brian told investigators he never reached that night. A flare is not accidental. It is a deliberate distress signal. Someone has to hold it and activate it. And this wasn't one person. It was multiple witnesses from the same group, same moment, all pointing at the same location, the Soulmate. The boat Brian says nobody was on. If Brian wasn't on the Soulmate, who fired that flare? still unanswered. 30 days later. And then there is the word. Brian called Blaine Stevenson 3 days after Lynette disappeared. 1 day before his arrest. He did not know the call was being recorded. CBS News obtained it and verified it. 40 minutes, unguarded, speaking freely, not through an attorney, not for investigators, not managing how he appeared, just talking, the way someone talks when they think nobody is listening. And in those 40 minutes, he described the moment Lynette entered the water. With one word, bounced. She basically just bounced off the dinghy. Not fell, not slipped. Not was swept away. Bounced. There is an entire field of forensic linguistics built around exactly this. Analysts who study the specific words someone chooses in unguarded moments, and what those words reveal about their actual experience of an event. They look for something called statement reality analysis. The idea is simple. When someone is describing something that actually happened to them, something they lived through, the language they use carries the fingerprints of that experience. It feels authentic. It carries weight. It carries the specific texture of memory. When someone is describing something differently, when the words don't quite fit the experience they're claiming, a different kind of language comes out. If you watch someone you love fall from a boat in rough water in the dark, and you cannot reach her, the word that comes out is not bounced. It's fell. It's gone. It's swept away. Those are grief words, terror words. The words of someone replaying a moment they can't stop seeing. Bounced is a different kind of word. It implies impact, force, something hitting a surface. She basically just bounced off the dinghy. Investigators heard that word. Forensic analysts heard that word. The people who have spent careers in rooms like this, listening to recordings like this, analyzing exactly this kind of language, and they have not moved past it. Now there is the drone. The soulmate had a drone on board. Brian wired the solar system himself, technically sophisticated by every account. He understood the boat, the electronics, the systems. When he was aboard the rescue vessel the morning after, searching with Jim Todd and the Hopetown Volunteer Fire and Rescue Team, he never mentioned the drone, never offered to retrieve it, never suggested flying it over the shallow, clear, searchable water where Lynette allegedly went overboard. Not once. A drone over shallow, clear water finds everything beneath the surface in minutes. A technically sophisticated man. That drone on his boat nearby, and it never came up. The team searched by boat, by eye. Blaine Stevenson told Ashley Banfield, "There is not one thing Brian did after the incident that he himself would have done if his wife were missing. Not a single thing." Then there is the voicemail. 3 days after Lynette disappeared, Brian left Carly a voicemail. Not a phone call, a voicemail. Carly shared it with News Nation. It was about a flotation device, equipment that Hopetown Search and Rescue had recovered. Not about Lynette, not about the search, not about what investigators were pursuing, about the flotation device. This is the same man who told ABC News on April 14th that his sole focus was finding his wife. That he would keep looking no matter how likely or unlikely. Hours after that interview, he boarded a plane back to Michigan. The cadaver dogs arrived the same day. Carly arrived the same day, going in opposite directions. Then there is the tracking system. The Soulmate's AIS transponder, the system that continuously broadcasts a vessel's position, went offline at 9:30 p.m. on the night Lynette disappeared. It came back online at 8:30 a.m. the following morning. 11 hours of silence. Investigators pulled a full month of prior records. In that entire month, it had never gone offline for more than 2 to 2.5 hours. Not for weather, not for technical issues, not once. 30 days of continuous, reliable operation, until the night Lynette Hooker disappeared. And exactly when did it come back online? At approximately the moment Brian Hooker stepped back aboard the Soulmate with a Royal Bahamas Police Force officer. Not hours before, not earlier that morning. At the moment, he arrived. Now add this. Brian had been fired from AT&T 3 times. The final termination, confirmed by sources and court documents reported by Ashley Banfield, was for manipulating the GPS on his company van to mask his location from his employer. A man who understood exactly how to falsify location data. Who had done it, who had been caught, who lost his job because of it, who stood in front of his employer and faced the consequences of deliberately masking where he was, and did it anyway. While Lynette, same company, same years, same employer, kept showing up, kept saving, kept building the account that now contains more than $650,000. 2 people at the same company, 30 years. And the contrast between who they were is documented, confirmed, on the record. One of them was fired for GPS manipulation. One of them built $650,000, and now they were living together on a vessel with a maritime tracking system, whose tracking system went dark for 11 hours on the night his wife disappeared and came back at the exact moment he returned. Now hold all of that together. A man with nothing left in savings, a wife with more than $650,000 in hers, a tracking system offline for 11 hours, a system that had never gone dark for more than 2.5 hours in the prior month, a drone on board that was never mentioned during the search, a flare that multiple witnesses saw rising from a boat he claims he never reached, an AIS that came back online at the exact moment he stepped aboard, a voicemail to a grieving stepdaughter about a flotation device, 40 unguarded minutes in which he described his wife entering the water with one word, bounced, and $650,000 sitting in an account in her name, going somewhere, to someone, based on a form. I'm not telling you this proves anything. Experienced investigators don't say that. Ashley Banfield doesn't say that. And I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is that this is the documented landscape of this investigation. These are the confirmed facts, the named sources, the verified reporting. This is what 30 days of investigating a missing woman looks like when you lay it all out in front of you. And the financial picture sits at the center of it. Not because money is always the motive, but because money, the specific amount, the specific gap, the specific form that determines where it goes, is something investigators always look at. Always. Because in cases like this, money tells you something. Not everything, but something that cannot be ignored. $650,000 in her account. Nothing in his. A form with a name on it. And the investigation has already read it. In January 2024, Lynette sent private messages to a fellow boater named Marnie Stevenson, written during one of the times she left Brian. Her own words. I guess it was too much closeness. We decided to call it quits. I'm not going back. She had quit her career, sold her house, given away everything, and after 6 weeks of sailing together, she said it was over. It was real bad. I can't be out there with him. Read that carefully. Not, I don't want to. Not, it's been hard. I can't be out there with him. The language of someone who feels unsafe. Someone telling the truth they haven't said out loud to anyone else. Someone for whom the words finally escape, because the weight of keeping them inside has become too heavy. Those words were written in January 2024, 2 years and 3 months before she disappeared from a boat in the Bahamas while she was out there with him. She also told Marnie that she had quit her awesome career, sold her house, given away everything she owned to Cruz. Everything. She gave up the career that built the $650,000. She gave up the house. She gave up every anchor she had on land. And after 6 weeks on the water with Brian, she said it was real bad. A month later, she went back. This is the part that stays with you. She went back. She said, "I'm not going back." And then she went back. And then, a year later, in January 2026, she told Carly that Brian had threatened to throw her off their boat during a fight in 2024. She said it out loud. She named it. She told the person she trusted most. She kept going back. She kept telling people. She kept building that account. And in April 2026, she posted a photo. Not going anywhere for a while. And she was gone. Carly flew to the Bahamas. She walked the shorelines. She stood exactly where Brian said her mother went overboard. She looked at the water, shallow, clear, 2 feet from the bank. And she said, the story doesn't make sense. She stood where a strong, experienced swimmer allegedly disappeared and couldn't survive. She looked at the currents and the distances and the depth and the proximity to shore. And she said, this doesn't add up. She flew home wearing the L necklace, the one Lynette always wore, the small charm that belonged to her mother. That now belongs to Carly, because Lynette isn't there to wear it anymore. That is a detail that should not be a detail. That is a daughter carrying the only piece of her mother she has left. She told her local news station the story sounds more sketchy to her now than before she went. Not less. More. After standing at the exact location, after seeing it with her own eyes, and in a calm, measured NBC News interview, not in anger, not performing grief for the cameras, in the clear and steady voice of someone who has been living with this for 30 days and has made peace with what she believes. Carly said this, "I feel like this was probably pre-planned. If anything, it doesn't seem just like some accident. Pre-planned." Take a moment with that word. Because Carly didn't say it in a heat-of-the-moment interview. She didn't say it while she was still in the Bahamas, still in shock, still processing. She said it in a calm, composed NBC News interview after she had flown to the Bahamas, walked the shorelines, stood at the location, looked at the water, and flew home more certain than when she left. She said it after 30 days of thinking about it. Pre-planned, her own daughter, the person who knew Lynette best, who heard what never made it onto Instagram, who got the phone call at 8:30 p.m. that started with her stepfather's flat, casual voice. "Hey, your mom is missing." Not Carly, something terrible happened. Not there's been an accident, I need you. Not the broken, desperate words of a man whose wife just disappeared in front of him in the dark. "Hey, your mom is missing." And then, days later, a voicemail about a flotation device. And then, a plane back to Michigan. The investigation knows where the money is. The investigation knows who the beneficiary is. Investigators have the legal authority to read that form. They have read it. What it says has not been made public. And maybe, when you think about everything laid out in this video, that is the most unsettling part of all. Not the flare, not the 11 hours of AIS silence, not the word bounced, not the drone that was never deployed, not the voicemail about a flotation device. The most unsettling part is that somewhere, in a federal investigation, in a file that has not been open to the public, there is already an answer to the question at the center of this case. Investigators know who gets the $650,000. They have known for some time, and they have not yet said a word about what they found. Who benefits? The question that experienced investigators always ask. The question Ashley Banfield has been following since the beginning. The question Carly has been asking since the phone call that started with her stepfather's flat, casual voice. "Hey, your mom is missing." Not, "Carly, something terrible happened." Not, "There's been an accident, I need you to come." Not the voice of a man whose world has just collapsed under him. "Hey, your mom is missing." And then days later, a voicemail about a flotation device, and then a seat on a plane back to Michigan. And then the cadaver dogs arrived the same day Carly arrived, going in opposite directions, one searching for what was lost, one heading home. That is the picture. That is what 30 days of documented evidence looks like when you lay it all out and stand back and look at it. Brian Hooker has denied all wrongdoing. He has not been charged. He is presumed innocent. His attorneys state he categorically and unequivocally denies any wrongdoing and never would have harmed his wife of 25 years. But Lynette Hooker is gone. And in Florida, Darlene Hamlet, 76 years old, is still waiting, still carrying the weight of a daughter who went out on the water and didn't come back. She told Ashley Banfield, "I just want nothing more than I love you and wish you would have come home." That is what $650,000 cannot fix. That is what no beneficiary form, no financial record, no investigation, no answer to any question can give back. A mother, waiting for her daughter, for a phone call that has not come and may never come. Lynette built something real over 30 years. She showed up, she saved. She stayed when leaving would have been simpler. She went back when she said she wouldn't. She kept building. She kept going back. She kept that account. Through the separations, through the tears, through the private conversations where she said the things she needed to say out loud. She kept building. And somewhere, in a federal investigation that is still active, in a file that has not been opened to the public, there is a form with a name on it. A form that Lynette may or may not have thought about changing. A form that may reflect a decision she made decades ago and never revisited. A form that the investigation has already read. The question is what that name says, and whether the answer changes everything we thought we knew about what happened on that boat on the night of April 4th. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lynette Hooker, contact the Royal Bahamas Police Force or the United States Coast Guard Investigative Service. Tips can be submitted anonymously through the CGIS Tips app on any phone. The silenced case, where documented evidence reveals what someone decided you shouldn't know. This video is based on publicly available information, named sources, and official documents. Brian Hooker has not been charged and is presumed innocent. The silenced case does not make conclusions of guilt. All characterizations reflect documented evidence and named source reporting only.